I won $20 million in the lottery and decided to celebrate at a restaurant with my daughter and her husband. Smiles, champagne, until they stepped away and the chef approached me with a vial. A man had paid him to poison my food. When I showed a photo of my son-in-law, everything changed. I acted fast, and betrayal always has consequences. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is in your region right now. The 6 numbers on my computer screen blurred as I checked them against my lottery ticket for the 3rd time. 7, 14, 23, 31, 42, 49. All 6, every single one. $20 million. I'm Walt Bennett, 67 years old, and in 4 decades as a forensic toxicologist, I'd learned to trust evidence over emotion. But right now, my hands were shaking like a rookie's at his first crime scene. The Colorado Lottery website didn't lie. The ticket in my hand didn't lie. I just won $20 million. I grabbed my phone and called Veronica before I could second-guess myself. My daughter answered on the first ring, her voice bright and warm as always. "Dad, what's up?" "Honey, I need to tell you something. I just checked my lottery numbers." I paused, savoring the moment before it all became real. I won $20 million. The shriek that came through the phone nearly burst my eardrum, then laughter, then crying, the beautiful chaos of pure joy. "Dad, oh my gosh, are you serious? I can't. Are you okay?" I smiled, feeling warmth spread through my chest. After 40 years of analyzing poisons and death, of testifying about how people killed each other for money, drugs, revenge, finally, something good, something pure. "I'm okay, sweetheart, better than okay. Listen, once I collect the money officially, I want to take you and Brian out to celebrate, somewhere special. La Mesa Dorada. That fancy place you've always wanted to try." "Dad, that's so expensive." "Honey, I just won $20 million. I think we can splurge a little." Her laugh was infectious. I could hear her shouting to someone in the background, Brian, her husband. "Baby, you won't believe it. Dad won the lottery. $20 million. The response was muffled, indistinct. "Okay, Dad, we'd love that. Just let us know when." After we hung up, I sat in my study, surrounded by the textbooks and case files that had defined my career. Volumes on alkaloids, cyanides, heavy metal poisoning, 40 years of death. And now, finally, life was handing me something beautiful. The doorbell rang the next morning at 9:30. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I opened the door, there stood Brian Cole, my son-in-law of 5 years. He was 39, worked as a pharmacist, always pleasant, but today something was off. His smile seemed painted on, his eyes a little too bright, a little too focused. "Walt, congratulations." He stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, pumping my hand with excessive enthusiasm. "Veronica told me everything. $20 million. That's incredible." "Thanks, Brian. Want some coffee?" No, I'm good. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something." He followed me to the living room, but he didn't sit. He paced, and I noticed his hands kept clenching and unclenching. Nervous energy. "So, Walt, I've been thinking, $20 million is a family amount, right? We're family. And it seems like the logical thing would be to split it. Half for you, half for me and Veronica. You know, fair distribution." I blinked. Surely I'd misheard. "Excuse me? Well, we're family, and you're, what, 67? You don't need all that money. But Veronica and I, we've got our whole lives ahead of us. We could buy a house, invest, start a family finally. It just makes sense." His voice had taken on an edge, something harder beneath the friendly tone. I felt a cold sensation creep down my spine, the same instinct that had helped me solve dozens of poisoning cases. "Brian, it's my money. I bought the ticket. I'm happy to help you and Veronica out. But half? That's not happening." His jaw tightened. "Come on, Walt. Be reasonable. You're not going to live forever. What are you going to do with $10 million that you couldn't do with 5? Or even less? That's not the point. Then what is the point? Hoarding money while your daughter struggles?" "Veronica doesn't struggle. You both have good jobs." Brian's face was reddening now. "You don't know what our situation is. You don't know what we need." We stared at each other, and I saw something in his eyes that made my professional instincts scream. Something cold, calculating. This wasn't a son-in-law asking for help. This was something else entirely. Then, almost casually, he asked, "Do you have a will, Walt?" The question hung in the air like poison gas. What? A will? Just in case something happens. At your age, it's important to have things in order. He tried to smile, but it came out as more of a grimace. Who's the beneficiary? Something inside me went very still. Why do you want to know? Just curious. Planning for the future. Making sure Veronica's taken care of. I should have lied. Looking back, I should have told him anything but the truth. But I was still processing the audacity of his demand for half my winnings, still trying to reconcile the pleasant young man who'd married my daughter with this aggressive stranger in my living room. Everything's left to Veronica, I said. For just a moment, less than a second, Brian's expression changed completely. The mask slipped. His eyes went dead and cold, and I saw something that made my blood freeze. Calculation. Assessment. Like he was looking at a problem to be solved, not a person, not his father-in-law. Then the smile returned, bright and empty. Well, that's good. That's really good, Walt. Veronica's lucky to have a father like you. He left shortly after, and I stood in my doorway watching his car disappear down the street. My hands were trembling, but not from excitement this time. In 40 years of forensic toxicology, I'd learned to read death. I'd learned to see murder in the residue of chemicals, in the timing of symptoms, in the desperate calculations of people who thought they could get away with it. And I'd just seen murder in my son-in-law's eyes. After Brian left, I couldn't move for a solid minute. I just stood there in my living room, staring at the door he'd closed behind him, trying to process what had just happened. Then I walked to my study, the one place in the house that had always made sense to me, and sat down at my desk. The photographs on my walls suddenly felt like they were mocking me. Veronica at 5, gap-toothed and laughing. Veronica at 18 in her graduation gown. Veronica at 30, radiant in her wedding dress. Brian beside her in his tuxedo, both of them glowing with happiness. That wedding had been 5 years ago. I remembered how relieved I'd felt when Veronica introduced me to Brian. She'd had a rough patch in her 20s, a string of boyfriends who were either unreliable or unkind. But Brian seemed different. He was a pharmacist, educated, articulate. He spoke respectfully to everyone, helped clean up after dinner, remembered birthdays. At the wedding, he'd given a speech about how he'd spend his life making Veronica happy, protecting her, cherishing her. I'd believed every word. I picked up my coffee mug, cold now, and thought back over the past few months. Had there been signs? Of course there had been. I just ignored them. 3 months ago, Brian had asked about my retirement accounts. Just curious how you're managing in retirement, Walt. The stock market's been crazy, right? At the time, I thought he was being thoughtful, making conversation. 6 weeks ago, he'd asked how much my house was worth. This area's really appreciating, isn't it? You must be sitting on a gold mine. I'd laughed it off, proud that I'd bought in a good neighborhood. 2 weeks ago, he'd mentioned estate planning. Veronica and I were talking about getting our wills done. Have you updated yours recently, Walt? It's important at your age. At your age. Like I was ancient. Like I was already halfway in the ground. I'd written it all off as a young man trying to be financially responsible, trying to think about the future. Now, sitting in my study, I saw it differently. He'd been taking inventory, assessing assets, calculating what my death would be worth. I pulled out my phone and looked at the photo from Veronica's last birthday party. She had her arms around both of us, her father and her husband, beaming at the camera. What would this do to her? If Brian tried something and I exposed him, it would destroy her. She loved him. She had no idea who she'd married. My phone buzzed, a text from Veronica. Dad, I'm so excited. I can't focus on anything. My students probably think I've lost my mind. Love you so much. My chest tightened. She taught English at Jefferson High. Loved her job, loved her students. She was good and kind and trusting. Too trusting. I thought about Brian's question. Do you have a will? And my answer, everything's left to Veronica. If I died, Veronica would inherit everything, and Brian had access to Veronica's finances. They were married, joint accounts, community property. If Veronica inherited $20 million, Brian would have his hands on half of it immediately, and the rest would follow. I'd worked too many homicide cases to ignore the pattern. Sudden wealth, a beneficiary, someone with opportunity, with means. Brian was a pharmacist. He had access to dozens of substances that could kill. He knew dosages, interactions, how to make death look natural. I remembered a case from 15 years ago. A wife poisoned her husband with digoxin from her nursing station, small doses over weeks, mimicking a heart condition. He died of natural causes at 53. We only caught it because the daughter insisted on an autopsy. The toxicology came back hot for cardiac glycosides. The wife went to prison for 25 years. My hands were shaking again. I called the Colorado Lottery office. Yes, I'd like to schedule an appointment to claim my prize. How soon can I come in? Let me check. We have an opening on November 3rd. Does that work? That's perfect. I wanted those $20 million, or at least the lump sum after taxes, in my account as soon as possible. If Brian was planning something, I needed to be ready. I needed resources. I needed to be in control. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the cold calculation in Brian's eyes. $20 million, enough to make a man forget his conscience, if he'd ever had one. I'd spent 40 years analyzing poisons. I knew how people killed for money. I'd testified in dozens of trials, watched killers try to justify their actions. I needed it. They were going to die anyway. Nobody was supposed to find out. And now my own son-in-law was looking at me the same way those killers had looked at their victims, like I was an obstacle, like I was already dead. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent my entire career learning how to detect murder. Now I might need those skills to prevent my own. I got up, went back to my study, and started making notes. If Brian tried something, I'd be ready. But I had to be smart. I couldn't accuse him without proof. I couldn't destroy Veronica's marriage on instinct alone. I'd collect my winnings. I'd watch Brian carefully. And if he made a move, when he made a move, I'd be waiting. Because if there's one thing 40 years of forensic toxicology taught me, it's this. Poisoners always make mistakes. And when Brian made his, I'd be ready to catch him. November 3rd arrived with crystalline clarity, the kind of morning where Denver's skyline cut sharp edges against a painfully blue sky. I sat in the Colorado Lottery office, surrounded by lawyers in expensive suits and financial advisors with tablets and spreadsheets, all of them explaining my options with the enthusiasm of salesmen at a car dealership. Mr. Bennett, you have two choices, the lead attorney said, sliding documents across the polished conference table. Option 1, the lump sum. After federal and state taxes, you're looking at approximately $11.5 million deposited within 5 business days. Option 2, the annuity, the full $20 million paid out over 30 years in annual installments. I didn't hesitate. Lump sum. Are you certain? The annuity provides... I'm 67 years old, I interrupted. I want control of my money now, not promises spread across 3 decades I might not live to see. The unspoken part, the part I couldn't say in a room full of strangers, was that I needed liquid assets immediately. If Brian was planning what I thought he was planning, I needed resources. I needed mobility. I needed to be ready. 3 hours of signatures, identity verifications, and legal formalities. Later, I walked out of that office with a cashier's check for $11,500,000. The number was absurd. Even after taxes, even after losing almost half the jackpot to the government's cut, it was more money than I'd earned in my entire 40-year career. I sat in my car in the parking garage, staring at the check. My hands weren't shaking this time. They were steady, focused, because somewhere in the back of my mind, a clock was ticking. Brian knew I'd be collecting soon. Brian was making his own plans. That evening I called Veronica. She answered on the first ring, breathless. Dad, did you get it? Is it official? It's official, honey. $11.5 million in the bank by Friday, she screamed. I had to hold the phone away from my ear, grinning despite everything. Oh my gosh, Dad, this is real. This is actually real. It is, and I want to celebrate properly. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, La Mesa Dorada. You and Brian, dress up nice. We're doing this right. La Mesa Dorada? Dad, that place is insanely expensive. I just won the lottery, sweetheart. I think we can afford one fancy dinner. I paused, listening. In the background, I heard her relay the news. Baby, tomorrow night. Dad got the money. We're going to La Mesa Dorada. Brian's response was muffled, indistinct, but something in the tone, something flat and calculating, made my jaw tighten. After we hung up, I made another call. La Mesa Dorada answered on the third ring. Yes, I'd like to reserve your best private dining room for tomorrow evening. 7 o'clock. 3 people. Money is no object. I want champagne, Cristal, if you have it, and your finest menu items. This is a celebration. The hostess, clearly accustomed to wealthy clients, didn't skip a beat. Of course, sir. We'll prepare everything. May I ask the occasion? Lottery winnings, I said, and it felt good to say it, to claim that victory out loud. Congratulations. We'll make it memorable. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling back to Brian's visit, his questions about the will, that cold calculation in his eyes. I'd worked enough murder cases to recognize the pattern. Sudden wealth, a beneficiary, someone with motive, means, and opportunity. The pharmaceutical knowledge, the access to drugs, the desperate need for money that I hadn't even known about until he'd mentioned those debts, so casually, so bitterly. I got up, went to my study, and did something I should have done months ago. I opened my laptop and started searching. Brian Cole, social media, public records, everything I could find. His Facebook page was carefully curated. Photos of him and Veronica at restaurants, hiking, smiling for the camera. A pharmacist's life, normal and unremarkable. But when I dug deeper into public court records and financial databases available through my old professional contacts, a different picture emerged. 3 months ago, a civil complaint filed against him by a creditor. Dismissed, but the initial claim was for $18,000 in unpaid debts. 2 months ago, another one, this time for $12,000. Also dismissed, but the pattern was there. Brian had money problems, serious ones. I sat back, the blue light of my laptop screen illuminating my study. How had Veronica not known? Had he hidden it from her? Or had she known and not told me, trying to protect her husband's dignity? The clock on my desk read 2:47 a.m. In 17 hours, I'd be sitting across from my son-in-law at the most expensive restaurant in Denver, celebrating a fortune that he'd already decided should be his. I checked the locks on my doors one more time before going back to bed. Old habits from a lifetime of studying how people killed each other. The paranoia of someone who knew exactly how easy it was to poison a man and make it look like natural causes. Because Brian was a pharmacist, and I was a forensic toxicologist. We both knew the same dark secrets about chemistry and death. The difference was I'd spent 40 years learning how to catch killers, and he was about to become one. November 4th, 7 p.m. La Mesa Dorada lived up to its name, the Golden Table, with warm lighting that made everything glow like we'd stepped into a painting. Our private dining room overlooked downtown Denver, the city spreading out below us in a carpet of lights. Veronica looked stunning in a navy dress I'd never seen before, her hair styled, makeup perfect. She was vibrating with excitement, barely able to sit still. Brian wore a charcoal suit and tie, his smile plastered on like a Halloween mask, too wide, too fixed. The waiter, a young man with impeccable posture, presented the champagne like it was liquid gold. Cristal, sir. 2018 vintage. I nodded, and he poured 3 glasses with practiced precision. I raised mine, the crystal catching the light. To family, to the future, to unexpected gifts from fate. We clinked glasses. Veronica's eyes were shining. Dad, I can't believe this is real. You won the lottery. Actually won it. Believe it, honey. So what are you going to do with it? She asked, leaning forward. Travel? Buy a new house? You could get that place by the lake you always talked about. Maybe, I said, watching Brian over the rim of my glass. He was smiling, but his eyes kept flicking to me, assessing, calculating. I want to help you two out, of course. Make sure you're set up properly. Brian's smile widened. That's generous, Walt. Really generous. Something in his tone made my skin crawl, like he was humoring an old man playing along with my little fantasy of control. The waiter returned. Are we ready to order? We ordered. Ribeye steaks for all three of us, lobster tails, truffle risotto on the side, the kind of meal that would have cost me a week's salary back when I was working. Now it barely registered as an expense. While we waited for the food, Veronica launched into her dreams. Europe next summer. Maybe Paris. Definitely Rome. She'd always wanted to see the Colosseum. Perhaps they could finally buy a house instead of renting that cramped apartment in Capitol Hill. I watched Brian watch her. His expression was tender, loving even, but I'd spent too many years reading people who lied under oath to miss the calculation beneath the affection. He was doing math in his head, dividing assets, planning expenditures. Excuse me, Veronica said, suddenly standing. I need to fix my makeup. Be right back. Brian stood as well. I'll use the restroom too. They left together, and I was alone in the private dining room with the city lights and my dark thoughts. That's when everything changed. A man in chef's whites approached my table, his face pale, hands trembling. His name tag read, Juan Martinez. He glanced over his shoulder, then leaned in close, his voice barely above a whisper. Say, or forgive me for interrupting. Is something wrong with the order? No, si, or I need to show you something. It's very important. He pulled a small glass vial from his pocket, maybe 2 inches tall, filled with clear liquid. His hands shook as he held it. 2 days ago, a man came to me. He offered me $5,000 cash. He wanted me to put this in your food tonight. My heart stopped, actually stopped. For one long second, the world went silent and still. Who? The word came out hoarse. Juan pulled out his phone, found a photo. Security camera footage? Grainy but clear enough. Brian standing by the service entrance, handing Juan an envelope. My son-in-law, the man who'd married my daughter, the man who'd promised to cherish and protect her. He'd paid a chef $5,000 to poison me. He said it was just sleeping medicine, Juan continued, his voice breaking. Said you forgot to take your pills and he wanted to help. But see? Or I worked in a hospital in Mexico. I know what medicine looks like. This, he gestured to the vial. This is something else. Something dangerous. I took the vial carefully, unscrewed the cap just slightly, and inhaled. 40 years of training kicked in instantly. The faint almond scent mixed with something chemical. Not sleeping pills. Not even close. This was a glycoside mixture, probably diazepam for sedation combined with oleander extract for cardiac arrest. 4 to 6 hours after ingestion, it would cause arrhythmia and heart attack. To any emergency room doctor, a 67-year-old man dying of a heart attack after a heavy meal and champagne would look completely natural. Professional work. For a pharmacist. Juan, I said quietly, why are you telling me this? He met my eyes, and I saw genuine anguish there. I have 2 children, say, or I need money. My mother needs surgery in Mexico. But I cannot kill a man. I'm not a murderer. You did the right thing? My voice was steady, but inside I was cold. Not afraid, cold. How long until they come back? 2, maybe 3 minutes. 2 minutes. I had 2 minutes to decide how to handle the fact that my son-in-law had just tried to murder me for $11.5 million. And in that moment, sitting in that golden dining room, holding the poison meant to kill me, I made my decision. That Brian thought he was the hunter. He thought I was just an old man, an easy target, an obstacle between him and a fortune. He'd forgotten what I did for 40 years. I didn't just analyze poisons. I caught the people who used them. And Brian Cole had just made the biggest mistake of his life. I held the vial carefully, turning it in the light. The liquid was clear, almost water-like, but the faint chemical smell told me everything I needed to know. 40 years of analyzing poisons had trained my nose better than any machine. Juan, I said quietly, I need you to be very clear with me. This man... I gestured to the security photo on his phone, Brian's face sharp and unmistakable. He gave you this 2 days ago? Yes, see our Wednesday afternoon. He met me at the service entrance. Juan's hands were still shaking. He said it was medicine. For your heart. That you forget to take it sometimes. I almost laughed. Almost. Brian had actually thought he could convince a chef that this cocktail of diazepam and oleander extract was heart medication. The arrogance was breathtaking. And he offered you $5,000? Cash. He showed it to me. Said I'd get it tonight after you. Juan couldn't finish the sentence. After I died. After the poison-induced cardiac arrhythmia 4 to 6 hours from now. After the paramedics found me collapsed in my home. After the coroner ruled it a heart attack. Tragic but expected in a 67-year-old man who'd just eaten a rich meal and drunk champagne. Professional, calculated, and it would have worked on anyone who wasn't a forensic toxicologist. Juan, you have 2 children, you said? Yes, senor, 12 and 14. And your mother needs surgery? His eyes widened. How did you? Because you wouldn't have considered this for any other reason. You're not a killer. I stood up, pocketing the vial carefully. Here's what's going to happen. In about 90 seconds, my daughter and her husband are going to come back from the restrooms. You're going to bring out the main courses, 3 ribeye steaks, perfectly cooked, and you're going to act like nothing happened. Can you do that? But see? Or what about... Leave that to me. I met his eyes. Trust me, Juan. This is what I do. I catch poisoners. I've been catching them for 40 years. He stared at me for a moment, then nodded slowly. What about the money? For my mother? I almost smiled. Even now, in the middle of this nightmare, he was thinking about his mother. You'll have it. Not from Brian. From me. $10,000. Consider it payment for your honesty. But first, I need you to do exactly what I say. His face transformed. Say or I don't know what to... Just bring the steaks. And Juan... I waited until he met my eyes. When the police come, and they will come, you tell them everything. The truth. All of it. I'll make sure you're protected. He nodded and hurried back toward the kitchen. I sat down, my heart pounding but my hands steady. The vial felt heavy in my jacket pocket. Evidence. Beautiful, damning evidence. I looked at the table setting. 3 places. 3 sauce dishes positioned beside each plate. Brian always drowns everything in sauce. I'd watched him do it 100 times. Steak, chicken, even fish. He thinks it's sophisticated, adding sauce to everything. Tonight, that habit was going to save my life and end his. The plan formed in my mind with crystalline clarity. It wasn't revenge, not really. It was justice. The same kind of justice I'd spent 4 decades pursuing. Brian had tried to kill me for money, had paid someone to poison me, had looked at me across the dinner table, knowing I'd be dead by morning, probably already planning how he'd console Veronica through her grief. The cold rage I felt wasn't hot or explosive. It was ice, pure calculated ice. I heard footsteps, Veronica's heels clicking on the marble floor, Brian's dress shoes following. I arranged my face into a pleasant expression, the mask of a man celebrating his good fortune. Dad, sorry about that. Veronica slid back into her seat, still glowing. The line for the ladies' room was insane. No problem, honey. I watched Brian sit down, watched his eyes flick to my plate, then to the sauce dish beside it. Checking, calculating. Wondering if Juan had already added the poison to my food. The anticipation in his eyes made me want to vomit. But instead, I smiled. The food should be out any minute. I'm starving, aren't you? Brian's smile didn't reach his eyes. Absolutely. This place is supposed to be incredible. Worth every penny, I agreed, and thought, you're about to find out just how much. Juan emerged from the kitchen with 2 other servers, all carrying large plates. 3 massive ribeye steaks, perfectly seared, accompanied by roasted vegetables and truffle mashed potatoes. The aroma was incredible. Rich, savory, exactly the kind of meal that would make poison impossible to detect by taste. They set the plates down with practiced precision. Juan wouldn't meet my eyes, but his hands were steadier now. Good. He was going to be okay. This looks amazing! Veronica picked up her knife and fork. Brian reached for his sauce dish, the small porcelain boat filled with red wine reduction. His fingers closed around it, and I made my move. I'd been holding the vial in my jacket pocket, waiting for exactly this moment. While Veronica was admiring her steak and Brian was reaching for his sauce, I smoothly pulled out the vial and, in one fluid motion that took less than 3 seconds, emptied its entire contents into Brian's sauce dish. The poison slipped in silently, invisibly, mixing with the red wine reduction like it had always belonged there. I pocketed the empty vial and sat back, my heart hammering but my face completely calm. Professional. Clean. Exactly the way Brian had planned to do it to me. Brian lifted the sauce dish, tilting it over his steak. The mixture poured out in a dark stream, coating the meat, pooling around the vegetables. He set the dish down and picked up his knife and fork. "Brian, wait!" My voice was quiet, almost gentle, but something in the tone made him freeze, the fork halfway to his mouth. "What?" His voice had an edge to it, nervousness. Like he knew, somewhere deep in his criminal little brain, that something was wrong. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "I just wanted to thank you for the special ingredient you added to tonight's dinner." The color drained from his face so fast I thought he might pass out, from healthy pink to corpse gray in about 2 seconds flat. His mouth opened, closed, opened again, exactly like a fish drowning in air. The fork clattered onto his plate. "Dad?" Veronica was looking between us, confused. "What are you talking about?" I kept my eyes on Brian. "Tell me, son, what's $5,000 worth these days? Is that the going rate for murder? Or did you get a discount because Juan has a family to feed?" Brian's hands started trembling. Actually trembling, like he had Parkinson's. "Walt, I don't know what you're—" "Don't." The word came out sharp as a scalpel. I pulled the empty vial from my pocket and set it on the table between us. "The chef told me everything. How you approached him Wednesday. How you offered him $5,000 cash. How you gave him this—" I tapped the vial and told him to put it in my food. Veronica's face went white. "What? Brian, what is he—" "It's diazepam mixed with oleander extract," I continued, my voice conversational now, almost pleasant, like I was discussing the weather. "A very professional mixture, actually. The diazepam sedates, the cardiac glycosides stop the heart. 4 to 6 hours after ingestion, I would have had what appeared to be a natural heart attack. Very clever. For a pharmacist." Brian was shaking his head, but no words were coming out. His eyes had gone wide and panicked, darting between me and Veronica, like a cornered animal, looking for escape. "The interesting thing," I continued, and I could feel the cold satisfaction building in my chest, "is that I'm a forensic toxicologist, 40 years analyzing poisons, and you really thought I wouldn't recognize the smell of bitter almonds mixed with benzodiazepines?" "Dad, this is crazy," Veronica started. "Look at him, honey. Really look at him." She did, and even she, loving and trusting as she was, couldn't miss the guilt written all over Brian's face. The way his skin had gone clammy, the way his hands wouldn't stop shaking, the way he couldn't meet her eyes. "Brian," her voice was very small, "tell me this isn't true. Tell me you didn't—" "I can explain—" His voice cracked. "It's not what it looks like." "Really?" I leaned forward. "Because it looks like attempted murder. It looks like you tried to poison me for $11.5 million. It looks like you were willing to orphan my daughter for money." "You don't understand?" The words burst out of him, desperate and raw. "I have debts. Almost $200,000 in debts. They're going to kill me if I don't pay." There it was, the confession, the motive laid bare. Veronica made a sound like she'd been punched. "So you decided to kill me instead?" I kept my voice level. "That was your solution? Murder your father-in-law? Cash in on your wife's inheritance?" I wasn't thinking clearly." He was spiraling now, the words tumbling out. "I'm sorry, Walt. I'm so sorry." "Sorry you tried? Or sorry you got caught?" He didn't answer, couldn't answer. I looked down at his plate, at the perfectly cooked steak swimming in sauce. Sauce now laced with the exact same poison he'd intended for me. There's something poetic about this, don't you think? That sauce you just poured all over your dinner? That's where the poison is now. Every drop of it. The same poison you wanted me to eat. His face did something extraordinary then. It went from gray to green, his eyes bulging as the realization hit him. He shoved his chair back so hard it toppled over, the crash echoing through the private dining room. You put it in my food?" Are you insane? Am I? I tilted my head, genuinely curious. Because from where I'm sitting, you tried to murder me first. I just returned the favor. Call it a social experiment. How does it feel, Brian? Knowing you're about to eat the poison you mixed with your own hands? He was hyperventilating now, backing away from the table like it might explode. You can't. I'll call the police. I'll tell them you tried to poison me. Please do. I pulled out my phone. I have the chef's testimony, the security camera footage of you handing him an envelope, your fingerprints all over the vial, and... I smiled. I still have the empty vial as evidence, but by all means, let's call the police. I'm sure they'll be fascinated to hear how this all started. Veronica was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. Brian looked at her, at me, at the poisoned steak, and I watched him break, completely, utterly break. Wait! Brian's voice came out strangled. He held up his hands like a man surrendering. Just wait. Let me explain. Explain? I kept my voice level. Explain how you tried to murder me? I'm listening. Veronica was frozen, her face a mask of shock. She looked between us, unable to process what was happening. Brian ran his hands through his hair. They were shaking. Walt, you have to understand. I'm desperate. I owe people. Dangerous people. Almost $200,000. Online gambling. Sports betting. They've threatened me. Said if I don't pay by December 1st, they'll hurt Veronica. So naturally, you decided to murder me instead. I leaned back, studying him like a specimen under a microscope. Tell me, did you think about Veronica at all? About what finding her father dead would do to her? Of course I thought about her. That's why I had to do it. To protect her. I laughed. The sound was cold and bitter. You're not protecting anyone, Brian. You're protecting yourself. You have gambling debts, so you decided the easiest solution was to murder your father-in-law and collect his money. That's not protection. That's premeditated murder. Dad? Veronica's voice was tiny. Is this real? I pulled the empty vial from my pocket and set it on the table. The glass caught the light. This is very real, honey. 2 days ago, your husband paid our chef $5,000 to put this poison in my food. Diazepam mixed with oleander extract. Cardiac glycosides that would have stopped my heart within 6 hours. Natural-looking heart attack. I turned to Brian. Professional work. Mixed it yourself at the pharmacy? His silence was answer enough. But here's what you didn't count on. Juan has 2 children, a mother who needs surgery. Despite needing that $5,000 desperately, he has more conscience than you have in your entire body. He came to me, told me everything, showed me the security footage of you handing him the envelope. Brian's face cycled through emotions, denial, rage, fear, panic. He settled on desperate pleading. I'll give it back, the poison. I'll go to the police myself, I'll confess. Just please, don't tell Veronica. Doesn't need to know what. Veronica's voice cut through his babbling like a knife. She stood up, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Pure fury. That my husband tried to murder my father? That you have $200,000 in gambling debts you never told me about? That you were going to let me find Dad dead while knowing you killed him? Veronica, please. How long? She stepped toward him and he backed up. How long have you been gambling? 3 years. The confession came out broken. Started small. Sports betting, then casinos. I kept thinking I could win it back. 3 years. She said it like tasting poison. For more than half our marriage, you've been lying, stealing, and planning to murder my father. I didn't want to. I was backed into a corner. He tried to reach for her, but she jerked away. These people will kill me if I don't pay. Then let them. The words exploded out of her, and even I flinched. Let them do whatever they want. Because right now, I don't care. I don't care if you're in danger. All I care about is that you tried to kill my father. Brian turned to me, eyes wild. Walt, please, I'll do anything. Sign a confession. Testify against the people I owe. Just give me a chance. Fix this. I stood slowly. You can't fix attempted murder. You can't undo the moment you decided my life was worth less than your gambling debts. But I didn't actually do it. The poison never went in your food, so technically nothing happened. I smiled. Not pleasant. Except you bought the poison, mixed it, paid Juan $5,000, gave explicit instructions, In Colorado, that's attempted murder in the first degree. The fact that Juan had a conscience doesn't make you innocent, it makes you incompetent. His face went from red to white. You can't prove. I have the vial with your fingerprints, Juan's testimony, security footage, the $5,000 withdrawal from your bank 2 days ago. I ticked off each point. And now I have your confession witnessed by your wife and recorded on my phone. His eyes dropped to my jacket pocket, where my phone sat screen up, recording light blinking. You recorded this? Every word. I stopped the recording and pocketed it. 40 years as a forensic toxicologist taught me one thing. Poisoners think they're clever, but they always make mistakes. What mistake? His voice was barely audible. I leaned in. You tried to poison a toxicologist. Someone who spent his career learning how people like you operate. Did you really think I wouldn't recognize bitter almonds? Wouldn't know diazepam from aspirin? The words hit him like blows. His shoulders slumped. Attempted murder doesn't care if you succeeded, I said. You planned it. Executed steps toward it. That's Class 2 felony in Colorado. 8 to 48 years in prison. 48 years, he repeated numbly. I'll be 87. If you get out. Good behavior might help, but with your gambling debts, your lies, your lack of remorse, don't count on leniency. He sank down, back against the wall, looking up at me with destroyed eyes. What do you want? He whispered. Money? I don't want anything from you. What I want is justice, for you to face consequences of trying to murder me for $11 million. Please, tears ran down his face. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. But I can change. Get help. Gamblers Anonymous. Therapy. Just don't. Don't turn you in? I looked at him with something approaching pity. You had 3 years to get help. Instead, you stole, lied, and when you ran out of options, decided murder was easier than honesty. I started dialing. You're done getting chances. The phone rang once, twice. Detective Hamilton. Roger, it's Walt Bennett. I need you at La Mesa Dorada, downtown. I have an attempted murder for you. Brian's face went from white to gray, the color of death. The plate crashed to the floor. Brian had shoved his chair back so hard it toppled, sending his poisoned steak sliding across marble in a spreading pool of red wine sauce. People at nearby tables turned to stare. Is everything all right? A waiter hurried over, concerned. Fine, just an accident. My son-in-law is feeling unwell. Brian's face was concrete gray. Sweat soaked his shirt. You put the poison in my food. You actually... I returned what you tried to give me. Think of it as a gift exchange. I kept my voice level. You were thoughtful, planning my death. I wanted to show my appreciation. Dad? Veronica's voice shook. Did you actually? The poison is in the sauce now, all over the floor. No one is in danger. I gestured to the mess, except Brian's pride. Brian backed away from the spreading steak and poison. This is insane. You're threatening me. You admitted to... To what? Putting your own poison back where you could see it? I didn't force you to eat it. I simply wanted you to understand what it feels like, that moment when you realize someone wants you dead. I straightened my jacket. How does it feel? That terror? He couldn't answer. His mouth opened and closed silently. I need to leave. Veronica grabbed her purse. I can't be here. I can't... Honey. I reached for her. No, Dad. I need to think. Tears streamed down her face. My husband tried to kill you. You almost killed him back. I need air. She fled. I heard her heels clicking rapidly, then the door opening and closing. Brian and I stood alone in the wreckage. The crystal champagne, expensive steaks, city lights. It all seemed obscene now. You've destroyed my life, Brian said finally. His voice was dead. Veronica will never forgive me, and you're sending me to prison. No, Brian. You destroyed your own life when you decided to become a murderer. I'm just the person who stopped you. He laughed, horrible, broken. You think you're the hero. You put poison in my food, threatened me, recorded me without consent. Colorado is two-party consent, Walt. Your evidence is inadmissible. I smiled. He'd done his homework. Except we're in a public restaurant, not private space. Different rules. Also, I showed him my phone screen. I verbally informed you I was recording 2 minutes ago. You looked right at it. That's consent. His face crumbled. Please, I'm begging. I'll leave Veronica. Disappear. Sign divorce papers. Just let this go. Can't do that. I signaled the waiter. The gentleman will be staying to speak with police? Brian's eyes went wide. You called the police? Juan called them 20 minutes ago. While you were in the restroom. They should be here any minute. Sirens outside. Brian heard them too. He turned toward the exit, but 2 Denver police officers were already coming through the door, led by Detective Roger Hamilton. Walt. Roger nodded, then looked at Brian. This the guy? Brian Cole, 39. Attempted murder by poisoning. I pulled out the sealed vial. Evidence. His fingerprints all over it. Contents are diazepam and oleander extract. Roger took the bag. Witness? Chef Juan Martinez, in the kitchen. Security footage from 2 days ago showing Brian at the service entrance. Brian was shaking his head, backing away. This is entrapment. He set me up. He put poison in my food. The poison that you provided? Roger asked mildly. That you paid someone to put in his food first? That's not... Brian Cole, you're under arrest for attempted murder in the 1st degree. Roger pulled out handcuffs. You have the right to remain silent. I watched Brian's face as Roger read his rights. Watched the exact moment he realized he wasn't talking his way out. When the reality of prison sank in, his legs gave out. Roger's partner caught him. I can't go to prison, Brian said, voice breaking. Those people I owe, they have contacts inside. They'll kill me. Should have thought of that before. Roger snapped the handcuffs on. Come on. As they led Brian away, he looked back one last time. His face was destroyed. All charm, all manipulation gone. What remained was just a terrified man who'd gambled everything and lost. I'm sorry, he said. I'm so sorry, Walt. I didn't respond, just watched as they took him away. Juan emerged from the kitchen, nervous. See? Or Bennett? The police need my statement. Go ahead. Tell them everything truthfully. You're protected. I pulled an envelope from my pocket. And Juan, this is for your mother's surgery. 10,000, like I promised. His eyes filled with tears. You saved my life by being honest. That's worth every penny. I shook his hand. You're going to be fine. Outside, I found Veronica on a bench, hugging herself in the cold November air. I draped my jacket around her shoulders. He's gone, I said quietly. The police have him. She didn't respond for a long time. I loved him, Dad. I really loved him. How did I not see it? Because he didn't want you to. People like Brian hide what they are, until they can't. What happens now? Now I make sure he goes to prison for a very long time. I put my arm around her. And you heal. However long that takes. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. You have nothing to apologize for. Nothing. I held her close. Come on. Let's go home. The next morning, I drove to my old laboratory, the place where I'd spent 40 years analyzing death. Walking through those doors felt different now. I wasn't there to solve someone else's murder. I was there to prove my own attempted one. Marcus Chen met me in the lobby. We'd worked together for 20 years before I retired. When he saw the sealed evidence bag, his expression went from friendly to professional, instantly. Walt, what do you have? Full toxicology workup. Official, documented, chain of custody perfect. Criminal case. He took the bag carefully. What am I looking at? Diazepam mixed with oleander extract. Cardiac glycosides. Attempted murder by poisoning. His eyebrows shot up. Who's the victim? Me. Jesus, Walt. He studied the vial. Who tried to kill you? My son-in-law. For $11.5 million. Marcus whistled. Lottery winner gets targeted. Classic. How'd you catch it? The chef he bribed had a conscience. I explained quickly. The restaurant, Juan, the confession, the arrest. I'll have full analysis in 48 hours. Report will be bulletproof. He paused. I'm sorry, Walt. Just make the case airtight. From the lab, I went to Denver Police Headquarters. Roger Hamilton was waiting, his desk covered in organized chaos of case files. Hell of a night, he said. Hell of a life. I sat down. Where are we? Roger pulled out a thick file. Brian Cole, 39. Pharmacist. Attempted murder, 1st degree. Evidence is strong. Juan's statement is solid. Security footage is clear. The vial has Cole's prints. Financial records show the $5,000 withdrawal and $195,000 in gambling debts. He looked up. But why didn't you come to us immediately? Because I wanted him to confess. In front of witnesses. On recording. I wanted his words to convict him. And I wanted my daughter to hear truth from his mouth, not police reports. Roger nodded. Risky. Effective. DA wants trial in 2 weeks. Good. Keep him locked up. He's a flight risk with those debts. Before leaving, I made one more stop. Lester Fields, criminal attorney. The best in Denver. Not a friend. I'd never met him. But the professional I needed. Lester was 61, silver-haired, expensive suit. His office overlooked downtown, all glass and money. Mr. Bennett, he gestured to a chair. Roger speaks highly of you. Let's talk about putting your son-in-law away for 30 years. We spent 2 hours on every piece of evidence, every possible defense argument, every way Brian's attorney might create reasonable doubt. In Colorado, attempted murder by poison carries serious weight, Lester said. 8 to 48 years, with gambling debts establishing motive, security footage and Juan's testimony establishing means and opportunity, and Brian's recorded confession establishing intent. He leaned back. Minimum 25 years, possibly more. Make it more. That's the spirit. He grinned. His lawyer will try to paint you as the villain. Old man with millions, refusing to help struggling son-in-law, driving him to desperate measures. They'll try for jury sympathy. Then we make sure the jury understands he wasn't asking for help. He was planning murder. Oh, he will regret everything. Lester walked me to the door. By the time this trial's over, Brian Cole will wish he'd never heard of the Colorado lottery. That evening I sat with Veronica on my porch. She'd moved back home. Couldn't face their apartment. She'd already called a divorce attorney. Papers would be filed within days. What happens at trial? She asked quietly. He'll be convicted. The evidence is overwhelming. And then, prison for a very long time, and you heal. She was quiet. Do you think he ever loved me? I think he loved what you represented. Security. Access to money through me. I looked at her. But the man who loved you wouldn't have tried to murder your father. She nodded, tears sliding down. I was so stupid. No, you were trusting. There's a difference. I put my arm around her. You're stronger than you know. Above us, stars were coming out. Constant, unchanging, like justice if you waited long enough. 2 weeks later, we'd find out if I was right. The courtroom was packed. Media had caught wind. Lottery winner nearly poisoned by son-in-law. And reporters filled the gallery, along with Brian's shell-shocked family. I sat front row with Veronica. She wore all black, attending a funeral, the death of her marriage, the death of who she thought she'd married. Brian sat at the defense table with Sean Dennis. Expensive, aggressive. Brian had lost weight in 2 weeks in jail. Gaunt face, hollow eyes. He didn't look at us. The prosecution called Marcus first. Dr. Chen, explain what you found in your analysis. Marcus opened his report. The vial contained 15 milligrams of diazepam mixed with concentrated nerium oleander extract. The oleander contains cardiac glycosides, causing arrhythmia and cardiac arrest. In layman's terms, 2-stage poison. Diazepam sedates. Oleander causes heart failure. In a 67-year-old man, after a heavy meal, death would appear natural. Very difficult to detect without specific toxicology screening. Could an ordinary person create this? No. This requires pharmaceutical knowledge, drug interactions, proper dosing, extraction techniques. Marcus looked at Brian. Someone with medical or pharmaceutical training. Objection! Speculation! Sean jumped up. Sustained. But the damage was done. Everyone knew Brian was a pharmacist. Juan testified next. Nervous, but clear. Brian approaching him, $5,000. My photo, the vial. Did the defendant tell you what was in the vial? He said medicine for Mr. Bennett's heart. But you didn't believe him? No? I worked in a hospital. I know medicine. That was something else. The security footage played. Clear as day. Brian handing Juan an envelope. Timestamp, November 2nd, 2:47 p.m. Detective Hamilton testified about the financial investigation. $5,000 withdrawal. Gambling debts. Offshore betting. Threatening emails. Then they played my recording. The courtroom went silent as Brian's voice filled the space. I have debts, almost 200,000. They'll kill me. You have nobody but her. That money would have gone to Veronica anyway. I just accelerated it. I watched the jury, watched their faces shift from neutral to disgusted, watched them look at Brian like something that crawled from under a rock. Brian took the stand. Biggest mistake. Sean tried to paint him as desperate, driven by circumstances. But under cross-examination, Brian fell apart. Mr. Cole, when did you learn about Mr. Bennett's lottery winnings? October 28th. And when did you withdraw $5,000? November 2nd. 4 days later. 4 days to plan murder. How desperate were you? Desperate enough to think for 4 days about the best way to kill your father-in-law? I wasn't thinking clearly. You mixed pharmaceutical poison. That requires thought, planning, knowledge. You didn't panic. You calculated. You premeditated. You chose murder. Brian's face crumbled. I was scared. They were going to hurt Veronica. So you decided to orphan her instead? Murder her father? Let her find his body? Comfort her through grief? All while knowing you'd killed him? He had no answer. Just sat there, broken, while the prosecutor dismantled every excuse. The jury deliberated 3 hours. When they returned, the forewoman stood. In the case of the people versus Brian Cole, on the charge of attempted murder in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty. Brian's face went white. His mother sobbed. Sean closed his eyes. Sentencing came 2 days later. The judge was stern. Mr. Cole, you planned and attempted to execute murder of your father-in-law for financial gain. You manipulated someone desperate to carry out your crime. You betrayed your wife, your family, and every principle of human decency. This court sentences you to 28 years in state prison without possibility of parole for 20 years. 28 years. Brian would be 67 when he got out, my age now, if he got out. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked at Veronica. I'm sorry, Veronica. I love you. She turned her face away, wouldn't even look. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, but I pushed through to the parking lot. Veronica and I drove home in silence. That evening, we sat on my porch. Same place as before. Sun setting, painting the sky orange and purple. How did you stay so calm through all of it? 40 years working with evidence, I learned to trust facts over emotions. Emotions cloud judgment. Facts tell truth. She was quiet. You won $20 million and lost a son-in-law. I lost a husband. This is victory, but it tastes bitter. I put my arm around her. That's the price of justice sometimes. It doesn't erase pain. It just ensures the guilty face consequences. Will I ever trust anyone again? Yes. Because you're not broken? You were lied to. That's not your fault. I looked at her. You'll heal. You'll be careful. But you'll love again. My phone buzzed. Message from Marcus. Cleanest evidence work I've seen in 40 years. You've still got it, old man. I smiled. Texted back. Thanks for the assist. Veronica leaned her head on my shoulder. We sat as the sun disappeared and stars came out. The lottery money was in the bank. Brian was in prison. Veronica was safe. Justice had been served. But she was right. It tasted bitter. Victory always does when it costs you family. That's the price of truth. The cost of justice. And sometimes the weight of $20 million. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.